as well as the link to everything later, everything you're gonna see later. Just to make connection.
Garrett says he's from UK, Durham, UK. So yeah, he
That's
wins
the furthest.
the furthest one. Yeah. Okay. So I'll go ahead and get started. So hey everyone, welcome to another session of Financial Services Tableau User Group. Today's meeting is a chance for all of us to catch up, share what we know, learn about what's the latest in the community. We are calling this session from data challenges to design crumbs. That means we're going to talk a lot about turning everyday data problems to smart, creative solutions, whether you're wrestling with tricky data sets, or you are looking for a way to revamp your dashboard designs. Our speakers have got a lot of ideas to share with you all. Free feel to feel free. Sorry, I can't speak now. Feel free to ask questions and share your thoughts along the way. So before we dive into the presentation, I encourage all of you to join this Slack channel. This is a fantastic space for networking, like job requests, events, and Tableau support, and also a way to connect directly with all of us. And I hope you find this session both insightful and inspiring. So let's get started. So my name is Oishik Nandi. I'm currently working as a CRM analyst at Old Dominion University. It is based out of Norfolk, Virginia. I am accompanied by my wonderful co-leaders, Jay Zhang and Whitney Pruett. Jay is a senior associate risk management at New York Life Insurance Company, and Whitney is a senior data strategist at Data Financial Group. So I've got some Tableau updates to share with all of you. So we have the TC coming up in about a month's time from now, happening on April 15th to April 17th in San Diego. We also have some selective uh, sessions available on Salesforce Plus. So we'll have 300 plus sessions, hundreds plus hands-on training, and opportunities like Iron Viz, Tableau Doctor, Data Village, Data Night Out, and so on. Before TC, there's also this Tableau bootcamp happening from April 13th and 14th in San Diego as well. This is a chance to fast track your learning and guide, and it will also work as a guide for your path to certification. So do check that out. If you haven't already tried the Data Plus TV or the Data Plus movies challenges, please do give that a try. This is a wonderful, you'll get wonderful data sets to get hands-on with Tableau, and also this is a perfect way to get started with Tableau as well. So without further ado, let's welcome our first speaker of the day, Whitney Pruett. I'm going to turn off my sharing and hand it over to you, Whitney.
Thanks, Oshik. Let me share my screen. All right. Just a second. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Oshik. Thanks, everybody, for joining. My name is Whitney Pruett. I'm a senior data strategist at Cetera Financial Group and also one of the co-leaders of our lovely financial services Tableau user group. Today, I'm going to talk about data quality. In one instance, in how my team and I turned trash data into treasure. So we're going to start with how we found our particular data quality problem. Then we'll move into our investigation and buy-in stages. We're going to show what actions we took to improve the data quality. And then finally, we're going to go over where we are at today. First, I want to ask the question of, has this ever happened to you where you start investigating a particular data problem and find that something just kind of seems off? You seemingly have the data you need, but something just isn't quite right. Or you have your data set, but there's too many nulls in your data. Something's missing, but you don't quite know why. Today, I'm going to share the story of what we did at Cetera to diagnose and solution a specific data quality issue. You'll learn how we helped stakeholders understand the value of data quality, how we continue to develop strong relationships with the leaders on the business side of our firm, and then how we went about driving adoption of best practices in the business that led to better data quality. So to start with, the beginning, something was missing. Our story begins with one question that leaders in our call center brought to us. Why are calls being transferred? Have you ever had to call a help desk and they had to transfer you to another department? Our call center wanted to better understand what was behind those transfers to see how we could reduce them for a better client experience. Let's start with something we all might be familiar with, cleaning the data. In the data we have, we can see if a call was transferred to another department, if a department received a transferred call, and we have a unique ID associated with every call. We use Tableau Prep to join the data to itself to connect the original call to its transferred portion, since we have that unique ID to tell us that it was the same overall phone call. Now let's review our data. Oh boy. We got some nulls, scratch that, a lot of nulls. So what does that mean? Well, it means that for over half of the calls, we can see that were transferred to another department. There wasn't an incoming transfer associated with that particular call ID. Basically, over half of our transferred calls weren't traceable for some reason. So let's figure out what that reason is. We want to figure out why over half of our transfers aren't traceable, so let's start investigating. We put on our detective hats and gathered some intel. First, we wanted to see if there were any particular teams at our call center who seemed responsible for most of those untraceable transfers than others. Then we wanted to figure out how agents are supposed to transfer calls using our call platform. Finally, we wanted to see if what agents were actually doing lined up with what they were supposed to be doing. So what happened? Through our interviews with call center agents, their supervisors, and our call platform admins, we found that agents were transferring calls incorrectly. The best practice method we found would allow for a call to maintain its lineage, meaning that the transferred portion of the call keeps that unique ID we talked about, and we can match it with the original call that came in. What we found was that agents were actually doing, what they were actually doing was different. How should agents be transferring calls? What really is the best practice or the right way to transfer a call? Starting with the beginning, a client calls us, agent number one answers that call, and finds that they need to transfer the call to another department for whatever reason. The right way would be to find the right queue to transfer that call to using a menu that's built into our call platform. From there, the call goes to another department for agent number two to handle the rest of the call. Since that call stays on the platform the entire time, that unique ID stays with the call. How are agents actually transferring those? We start from the same point. A client calls in with some question, talks to agent number one, who then realizes they need to transfer the call elsewhere. What some agents were doing, though, was making an outbound call using our firm's main line and then transferring the call to the right queue using the phone tree menu on our main line. The calls landed at the same place as the right way. However, because they effectively dialed out, the call briefly left our platform and came back on once it reached agent number two. Because that call left the platform briefly, when it comes back to go to agent number two, it actually came in looking like an original call from the client rather than from another department at our firm. What that does with the data is it changes the unique call ID to a completely new one. So now we can't match up the two halves of that call. It's a little funky if you've never worked with call center analytics. So I know I went into the weeds a little bit with that. All you really need to understand is that the right way allows us to maintain that unique call ID so we can match up an original call with its transfer. The wrong way makes it so that the transfer gets a brand new ID and we've lost our overarching connection in our data that allows us to match the two halves of that call. That null data we saw at the beginning, that was due to the wrong type of transfer. So why were agents using the wrong way? There's actually some really good reasons why this was happening. I definitely don't want to throw our call center under the bus. They're really awesome. But the first reason was due to outdated guidance. Not that long ago, we migrated from a different call platform. As with any migration, you're going to have a good chunk of time where some teams are on the new platform and some are on the old platform. Because some departments were on the old platform, if a call from the new one needed to be transferred, the agent would still need to dial out to the number to get to the old platform. This guidance was just never updated across the board as more and more teams migrated to our new platform. The second reason was just a general lack of knowledge. Some agents just weren't familiar enough with all of our call queues to know that they just didn't know which one to send a call to get to the right department. We have a lot of call queues, so this is completely understandable. Instead, what they did was they used that outbound call for our main line to use that initial phone menu to then direct the call to the right department. So we have two different root causes here, one being that SOPs hadn't been updated, and another being that agents didn't have access to good information. Now, what do? We've identified what caused our data to look like it does, and we found out why. To tackle those two problems, we need to get our call center on board with rethinking how they transfer calls. For the outdated guidance issue, our best practices need to be updated now that all of our departments are on the new call platform or on the same call platform. For the knowledge issue, agents need to have access to better guidance on which queues to send calls to for all of the different scenarios that could pop up during a phone call. Once we do that, we need to retrain everyone. We have around 120 agents, so it's going to take a pretty big effort to do this. So we're going to need to get senior leaders on board with this. Let's talk now about how we got our leaders on board with the changes that we wanted to make. We met with the head of the call center and other senior leaders to discuss the issue. We put together 3 primary reasons why they should care about data quality enough to adjust how a portion of our call center works. As analysts, we're in the data all day, every day to know that if we have bad data, we can't do much. I'm sure every one of you has heard the term garbage in, garbage out. Senior leaders, though, they're not in the data weeds with us, and it's not their job to be. So if we have an issue like this that's as impactful as it is, we need to put on our business hat to get our non-data friends to understand. The first reason that we laid out was cost. Sometimes bad data quality is a symptom of an inefficient system that costs money. In our case, those wrong transfers were actually costing 3 times more than the right transfers. Bad data quality can also cost time. This resonates more with analysts since we might have to spend extra time on data prep, analysis, rework, but leaders might care too because it delays how quickly we can provide the answers to their questions. The second reason we laid out was related to data-driven decision-making. In our current world of leaders wanting to make decisions with data backing them up, if the data is bad, we can't provide helpful answers or answers at all. Leaders may not get the information they need to make decisions for their business. The third reason had to do with downstream impacts. Even if the question now isn't important enough to care about data quality, what about questions that can pop up down the line that we would need to use that same data set? Maybe if we can improve data quality today, we'll be better equipped to answer those future questions. In our case, we already knew that there would be downstream impacts on our major roadmap items, such as AI topic modeling for calls and interaction analytics, because if we can't preserve the lineage of all of our calls, then we're not going to be able to have a holistic view of those phone calls. What that boils down to is that bad data means bad insights. We can't see what's really happening without good quality data. So we went ahead and moved forward with building out a Tableau dashboard to track those call transfers to answer the question leadership came to us with initially. This was so we could actually show them what this looks like if we move forward with bad data. From here, it doesn't seem so bad. We have our trends, we have breakdowns, lots of information. It seems okay, but let's take a closer look. Let's look at that middle breakdown. This tells us which departments transferred calls. On the left side, that's our outgoing transfers, and which departments those calls went to. That's on the right side, our incoming transfers. If you look at the incoming transfers, the bulk of them are marked unknown transfer. This is those null values we saw at the start, and those are caused by those wrong transfers. All of the bits that are blurred out are actual department names, but we do have some information, but there's still a great big question mark that doesn't allow for us to truly answer leadership's initial question. Why are calls being transferred? We are very fortunate to have awesome leaders at Cetera. So this combined with laying out our 3 reasons why they should actually care about data quality resonated enough with them for them to greenlight us taking action. Here's the actions we took to change how our call center transfers calls. Definitely took a village to make these changes. We had to coordinate with a lot of different people and departments. We worked with our training team to update best practices on call transfers and create helpful guides on where calls should be transferred to. We worked with supervisors in the call center to prioritize retraining. On the data side of things, I created an adoption tracker to ensure we were making progress and to identify any opportunities for training or knowledge. We set an initial goal of 90% adoption at first. In a perfect world, this would be 100%, but we certainly hope to get as close to that as possible. But as we know in the data world, nothing is fully 100% perfect. Here's the adoption tracker put together to support retraining efforts. With this, we can see our overall adoption and progress to our 90% goal. We have trending month-over-month adoption. On the bottom left, we have a list of teams and their wrong transfers, which helped us prioritize teams to pilot the retraining effort. On the bottom right, we have the actual phone number that agents use to transfer the call. Our firm has a lot of different areas, so if we align those phone numbers with the overall business unit, we might be able to help understand which areas could use the most updated knowledge. I want to make a note here and say that yes, while we do have the phone number that they dialed, one phone number may go to 5, 10, 15 different departments. So these transfers still don't get us to the granularity we need for our initial project. I see one question in the chat that I'll cover right now, actually. How did you measure adoption? That's an awesome question. So the way we got to our adoption percent was we looked at all of the calls that were transferred out. Since we have a flag in our data that tells us if a call was transferred, we took that, that's our denominator. Since we can identify those unknown transfers, since there's a null on the other side of it, the inverse of that is our numerator. So we were able to separate out the right and the wrong transfers. So we put the right transfers over all transfers. So the percentage of transfers that were made using the right way. Hopefully that answers your question. Definitely let me know if I can clarify that. Let's take a look at one of our teams. Team number 1 was responsible for the bulk of those, quote, wrong transfers. Now, this team's pretty large. It's a very high volume team, which is one of the reasons why their volume is so high. However, if we can get their adoption up, that would already make a huge difference in our data quality. This team had only 46% adoption, so less than half of their transfers were using that best practice. So we have a little ways to go with them. We prioritized this team for the retraining program, and they were our pilot team. Now that we've started taking action, let's see where that's led us. Across our call center, we had 54% adoption of best practices in September 2024 when we originally found this issue. As of February 2025, we were at 74%. We're still not quite where we want to be, but this is a pretty major effort and things are moving in the right direction. Here's our trend since April 2024. We were steadily in the 50s for adoption. In October, you can see a little bit of a bump. That's when we started our retraining efforts. So you can see we went from 54% in September to 63% in October. We're continuing to work with our partners in the training team and the service managers to improve on this. Let's take a look at how our pilot team did. Remember in September, they had way more wrong transfers than the other teams, so we prioritized them for retraining. In February, they were more in line with the other teams. Considering this is our largest team, that shows us that retraining is working. But let's take a step back and look at their overall progress. Remember in September, they were at 46% adoption, below our call center's average of 54%. Now in February, they're at 85%, above our call center's average of 74%. We've had a lot of really great feedback as well from that team on the methods of retraining and the quality of documentation they've been provided. So that's helped us adjust and improve on retraining as we expand to other teams. Now that we're making improvements to our data quality, let's go back to our initial question that started all of this. Why are calls being transferred? Let's first remember where we started. In September 2024, the dashboard wasn't as helpful as it could be because of those unknown transfers. Things were a little bit top heavy because of them. You see on the heat map, most of the numbers are very much concentrated with unknown transfers. Let's look at where we are now. In February 2025, things are still a little bit top heavy, but if you look at our pink bar chart and our heat map on the bottom, things are looking a little better from an insights perspective. Definitely still some room for improvement. This is an ongoing effort, so we're really excited to see how our data changes over time. So where does that leave us now? Here's our timeline of events. In September, we found the data quality issue with our transferred calls data. We met with leadership to see what actions we could take. In October, retraining began with Team 1's pilot program, and our data team launched the best practice adoption tracker. We ended the year with 67% overall adoption, while retraining continued and expanded to more teams. Now, our service teams continue to increase their adoption of best practices, and my team can start to glean insights from the call transfer data to help our business partners. And we've also been able to begin work on implementing AI topic modeling for calls and interaction analytics now that our data quality is a little bit better in that area. I'll leave you with this, some tips for navigating a data quality issue. The first and maybe the most important is to not give up. I don't know about you, but bad data sometimes makes me want to throw my computer into the dumpster. If y'all are familiar with the gif of Ron Swanson throwing the computer out, I feel like that a lot. But data quality issues can be very frustrating, yes, but exploring and solving for them is worth it, and it's going to make you a better analyst at the end of the day. The second tip is to be a data detective. Usually you hear about this used in the context of analysis, but this extends to exploring data quality issues. Approach them from a curious mindset the same way you would any other analysis. The third tip is to engage with your network. As a person with all kinds of anxiety, it's sometimes very scary to approach an executive who asks me for something and tell them that I can't produce good quality work because of a data issue that I just can't get past without some major intervention. That said, if you can frame up whatever issue you're facing with a solution-oriented mindset in a way that they can understand, your stakeholders will often be your biggest allies and champions. And with that, thank you for listening I will be at Tableau conference. If you care to sit through a repeat of this, it'll be improved on as well. Um, Feel free to come to my session at Tableau conference or just say hi if you see me. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Whitney. And now we are going to start with Kevin's presentation. So, Kevin, it's over to you.
Cool. Just want to make sure that we also give time to Q&A if anyone have any questions about Whitney. We, yeah, just want to wait for a couple seconds just in case. But yes, thank you for sharing, Whitney. I look forward to seeing you, and I wonder when your presentation will be, and if the time is not overlapping, definitely we'll check it out. Cool. If no one have any question, let me reorganize my slides a little bit. I have 3 monitors, so it's a little bit chaotic on my end. So let me organize my screen, making sure that I'm putting the right thing at the right place. Okay, here, and share my screen. Great. And before I start, I just want to say that I have put my contact information in the chat. So if anyone need to reach out for anything that we have discussed today or anything that I've talked to in other talks in the past, feel free to reach out and I will get back to you at my earliest convenience. With that said, let me share my screen, entire screen, that one. Cool. Let me know when you can see it.
Yes.
Good. Great. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Kevin, and today I will talk about a kind of custom-made contextual legends that I've been using a lot in my own practice in dashboard development, and hopefully it would be useful to all of you. So with that said, for those that are not familiar with me, let me share a little bit about myself. I am Kevin Wee. If we have any Mandarin speaking people here today, my name is Huang Kewen. It's very nice meeting you all. I started using Tableau in 2019. I was a graduate student at Purdue University in Indiana. I was seeking a visual solutions to analyze the data that I gathered. No clue how to do that after gathering a lot of data for my research. Eventually, I landed with Tableau, learned it, loved it, haven't stopped using it ever since. I'm currently a lead BI analyst at Discover Financial Services. It's a credit card company, not the one about turtle and jellyfish. Um, my job at Discover mainly involves developing visual solutions for my business partners. Usually, it's about dashboard or report development. I am also one of the many internal Tableau trainer for Discover. So usually if anyone has any Tableau questions that they couldn't figure out, they will reach out to me and then we would talk, help them solve through the problem. So that's my role at Discover. I'm also a Tableau ambassador and a Tableau visionary. For those who are not familiar with the term, Tableau ambassador just means that I'm quite good at showing what Tableau can do to the public. If you go to my Tableau public profile, you see a lot of examples where I try to push the limits of Tableau as a visual analytics tool. Hope that you'll get some inspirations from my profile. As a Tableau visionary, I dedicate a lot of my time and effort to teach people to use Tableau as an analytics tool. In the past couple of years, I've done a lot of Tableau conference presentations. Sometimes I even gathered people together in a real office, and then we just talk about our problems and practices using Tableau. I also have a YouTube channel where I basically created a playlist of all of the Tug videos that I have presented in all these years. So check my social media link. You will have access to all of these materials. With that said, let's go back and talk about today's presentation. I'll start by demonstrating 3 types of legends that are custom made. And then for each of the legend type, I will demonstrate their applications, their use cases, and I'm going to walk you through how to create each of the legend type and how to optimize its UI. We're going to repeat that for each of the types, and I will conclude the presentation by sharing a lot of free learning resources to all of you. So do stay tuned, stay till the end of the presentation. So with that, I'd like to say that by the end of today's session, you should be able to, number one, you should be able to create custom legends with analytics contents with an somewhat friendly UI and with helpful dashboard interactivities. Secondly, you should be able to list at least 3 ways to apply what I call contextual legends in dashboard designs and analytics. Lastly, you should be able to identify the learning resources to create your own contextual legends. So with these learning objectives in your mind, let's move on. And before I show you the dashboard, there's several notes for you and for myself as BI practice people in the financial service industry. Number one, it's that a well-designed dashboard legend, they should be easily leveraged by the target users. They shouldn't be bedazzling the users. It shouldn't be confusing. People shouldn't be paying too much attention on this legend. They should just move on with their business and make money for the company. The second thing is, in today's presentation, I would like you to pay attention to the design and use cases of each legend that I present. Today, the charts part would be the most boring part. You will see a lot of line chart, very, very boring charts, because charts are not the hero of the story today. Let's pay attention to these legends that I'm going to talk. With that, let's go into demonstration. Later, when you have access to the slide, know that you can click the image and get to my Tableau profile and look at the legend. But here is the legend that I'm just going to pull quick and refresh this. Good. Let me go to the full page. So here are 3 contextual legend types that I will be talking today. Number one is what I call a category legend. Category legend is basically a color legend for categories in your dashboard. More than just a usual legend, you can see here that on the right, it also have a bar chart that show you how many records or how big of a deal each category is. So it's kind of provide you more context than just the squares for color legend. Other than that, you can also see earlier that when you hover your cursor above the bar or the dots, you will be able to highlight the corresponding charts on the left. So this is already a better UI than the traditional square color legend. Other than that, I want you to pay attention to what happened when I click it. So when I click on the circle, it would actually filter the line chart. And this is something that you can do on my color legend that you cannot do in the original legend. That is, if you hold Control or Command key on your MacBook and click another circle, you can do multi-select on the corresponding chart. This is something that you cannot do with the original design as well. So this is just category number one, the category legend. The second type of legend, it's actually a derivative or a variations of the category legend. It is what I call an anchor legend, where the color are where the value of each category is actually anchored to the first value. For example, you can see that in the color legend on the right, the first value is 2023, and then the second and the third value is basically a year before and 2 years before the latest year. And the color is blue, orange, and light orange, right? Here's something magical. When I switch the data to having 2024 as the latest, I want you to pay attention to the existing color palette. Now you can see that even after changing the latest order year, the color order remained the same. It's still dark blue, orange, and light orange. We only changed the text corresponding to each of this category. So this is what I call an anchored legend, where the color and the values of each categories is anchored to the very first one. So this actually can come in handy. Let's say if you have a chart where you have to keep on comparing everything against a specific target or a specific year, you don't have to keep on changing the color every time you refresh the data set. So it could come in handy. The third type of legend is what I call a parameter legend. It's basically a parameter, but of course you provide context of the category within the parameter. For example, here you can see that by each of this legend is actually, what do you call this? The ship mode. We have first class, second class, and standard class. And it show you how many orders is within each classes of shipment in 2024. Currently, it's comparing the standard class against all of the classes in terms of the dates to ship. And when you click on different class, now it would toggle the parameter to first class or the second class, or even going back to the standard class. So basically, this is effectively a parameter, but with context metrics. So these are the legends that I will be talking today. With that, let's go back to the presentation. Let's see, that one. So it's cool. Now I'm going to talk about the use cases of each legend type, and I'm going to walk through how to build each of them and their UI. And then we're just going to repeat that for 3 cycles. With that, let's get back to here. So if you go to my Viz Tableau public profile, you will see this Viz. I definitely would like to encourage you to download it later. But now let's go to the category legend. Oh, by the way, if you click the UI comparison here, I compare these 3 legends with the original design, which is just the boring, square categories. In fact, I could just pull it up here. This is a dashboard I built for another project. And let's compare, let's do the second one. All of the legends earlier with the usual color legend, which is the one at the bottom here. Here is the legend, right? When you hover over each of the legend, you're not hovering, you're not highlighting anything. That's one thing that's different between my legends and the default legend. The second thing is when you click on them, you can highlight it. But let's say you click keep only. You cannot do multi-selection, not easily. And to revert back to the original design, clicking any empty space not going to revert the filtering setting. You have to click the undo button. So there's a lot of clicking at different places to make things happen. My legend should somewhat streamline the process. I'll bring this away. Cool. Now let's look at categorical legend. Earlier, I've said that for categorical legends, you can just use it like the usual legends, where each row is a different category. You actually can also use it to represent a continuous value, but you have to bin these continuous values. For example, here I have a line chart showing you the profit per order, but I break them down by the discount group. Different products have different discounts, and I bin the discounts value to 0, 1 to 20%, 21 to 40%, 41 to 60%, or 60% or 61% or above. This binning value, it just functions as same as the usual categorical value. I'm pretty sure that in terms of financial service, there are a lot of chances where we bin our customers' portfolios dimensions, for example, their age, their incomes, or something similar, or their credit line. Now let's talk about how I built this. And before I build this, I just want to say one thing as well. You will notice that when you click over the bar, it will not create like the dark color line. It's not going to linger. It would automatically revert back to the original design. This is one of the good UI that I consider quite well, because let's say you have some dark color bars. You can still see the value automatically after clicking it. It's not gonna cover the text. Now let's get to the workbook and see how I built it. It's actually very I'll say rather easy. Later, if you have the chance, please consider copy or download my Tableau workbook, because I've put a lot of informations on how to create each of the bars in the captions, like which is currently hidden from the what you see. You have to download it to access these contents. And for today's presentation purpose, I will hide this, but just know that they're always there. So now let's talk about how to create the category legend first. To create a legend, start by a usual, colored bar with the text. And let's ignore the red line for now. Let's change the bar real quick. So for the bar, here's what I'll need you to do. First of all, we reduce the color, the opacity of the bar. Then we switch the text from on the right to the left. Now the bar is on the left. Now we can also hide the header. Now we need to find out what's the largest bar length. To do that, I believe I use, this is 0.1, I think. Let's see. I believe this is here. So to find out the maximum bar length, the calculation that I use, it's actually a nested fixed calculation. Not sure why I cannot move it around. Make sure that's not stuck. Oh, let's try again. So basically, first of all, we find out what's the summations of sales in each category. And then amongst these categories, we're trying to find out what's the maximum value amongst these sales. So this basically giving us the red line here. Why do we need the red line? It's so that we can determine where to place the dots. We want the dots to always on the left sides of the bar, but we want it to be automatically at a certain place. We don't want to have to adjust it manually. So here's what I calculate. The dots should always be about negative 10% of the maximum of the bar. So that is how I determine it. Bit here. 1B. And then when I sync dual axis and sync it, and then. So that's how you create the color legend. Of course, you have to hide the text and everything here. So that's how you create the category legend. So after creating this, you'll notice that when you click on a bar, it will not automatically turn off the color. You'll still get this very ugly highlighted bar, dark color highlighted bar. So how do you get away with that? Well, for those who are familiar with my talk, I always have two calculations in my Tableau workbook. Apple and orange, they are just apple and orange. Like there's nothing there. They're just called apple and orange. I usually just put apple and orange in the detail field. And then when I go to my dashboard, I deactivate the highlight by asking Tableau to compare apple and orange when I click the bar. And because apple will always not equal to orange, Tableau would freak out. It will show all values. So you automatically de-highlight the bar. Let me show you the action here. This sheet, I think let's do highlight deactivation category 1.0. This one. Okay. Oh, not this one. It's this one. So you can see that when you select the bar, it will target the worksheet, and then it has to find apple where apple equals to orange. And because it will never equal, it will clear the selection and it will show all value. That's how you make it work like this. When you click on a bar, it would automatically not do that. But if you click on the circle, it would filter by the circle, and you can do multi-selection. And for the selection function, later, feel free to check out my dashboard action for selection. It's just basically how you would select between charts. Nothing too extraordinary there. So that's it. That is categorical legend. Now let's move on to anchor legend. For anchor legend, here are two use cases. Number one is for you to anchor by dates. On the top example here, you can see that I anchored the color legend by the latest month of shipment. It's the latest month, the previous month, and then the same month, but the last year. I believe in the field of financial services, a lot of time we're dealing with data with seasonality, right? It doesn't make sense to compare July values with January values because that two lines would have a very different trend. But it makes sense to compare the current month's value against the last month or the same month last year or the same month before the pandemic. So with this color legend, it gives us that power. And you can see that when I change the latest month value, the color remains the same, no matter how I change it. So how did I make it? The second applications of an anchor legend would be anchor the color by a certain metric or a certain target. For example, if your company have different products would have different targets or different threshold you're trying to hit, right? So let's say now we're trying to compare the shipment punctualities of different shipment class. We know that the first class, the second class, and the standard class, they should have a different threshold. You shouldn't be using the threshold of one to judge the performance of the other. So here you can see that currently it's in the standard class. I have two different thresholds for what does it mean by good or bad shipment punctuality. When I switch it to first class, you can see that now the value actually changes because the shipment class changed. So you can actually anchor the value by date or by a certain metric. So how did I do that? Let's use the date as an example, as it would be more frequent for you to use it. Here you can see that I actually show the real definition of each category instead of the date that keeps shifting. Actually, you can see that let's see here. I am using the date diff calculation here to determine the color of each bar. Here you can see that I am actually comparing the order month against a parameter. So when I switch the parameter, we will always keep 0, 1, and 12. as indicated here. We always keep 0, 1, and 12. 0, 1, and 12. So actually, the real name of the category is 0, 1, and 12 months away from the latest month. But because this is a worksheet that I create, I can actually change the name of the bar to something that's more familiar by the user, that is directly referring to the month that these bars represent. So instead of 0 month away from the latest month, 1 month away from the latest month, 12 months away from the latest month, we just tell them what they actually represent. That is, these are the corresponding values that they represent. Because you can create your own text label, you get to choose what you put in the label. That's the benefit of using an anchor legend. And in terms of interactivity, it's just the same. You're using the same apple and orange to activate the bar highlights, and then you use the same filtering functions to filter the clicking if needed. You don't always need it, but it's good to have it. Now let's talk about the third type of contextual legend, which is the parameter legends. For the parameter legends, it's effectively a single selection filtering legend, if you want to put it that way. But by clicking it, you will not filter the bars. You will not filter the charts. You just switch the reference point of the chart. For example, on the top here, we can see that we are currently comparing the phone sales in the East region of the United States against all other regions. And when you click on a different reference point, now it would just color a different line or different part of the chart and compare that with the rest. You're not filtering the charts, you are switching the parameters. This could be useful particularly in the marketing analysis for financial services or different industry, right? Let's say you are trying to sell a product on your website. From the landing page to clicking confirmation or clicking ordering a product, there are multiple steps. This kind of design actually will be excellent for those who like to compare the efficacies of different steps of a journey, because by clicking the parameter legends, you can simultaneously control the whole page of dashboard just to switch to that view. And especially when you need to troubleshoot a specific website at a specific date, this kind of parameter legend could be useful. So how did I build this parameter legend? It's actually building on top of the category legend, but now both the color and the shape of the bar will be determined by whether you are selecting a certain parameter. Let's see, parameter region. Yeah, currently the parameter is showing south. So anything that is south would be matching south. Anything that's matching the parameter would be in a certain color. Anything that's not matching the parameter will be on a different color. If I switch the parameter to east, now it's coloring east in the darkest color. And with the dashboard action, you just need to use the parameter switch dashboard action to click the parameter. For example, here, let's just see 0, let's just 2.2, change parameter. That's just the usual clicking the legend to change the parameter function. You can check the detail out later. So this is the third type of contextual legends that you may leverage in your dashboard design. If you go to my dashboard, you will notice that there is a fourth kind of contextual legend. I put in the bonus tip part. This is basically a kind of contextual legends, but you have multiple columns of it. Basically, you start to arrange your bars in a grid. So how did I do this? I'm not going to show you how I do it, but I just want to say I put sufficient information in my dashboard for you to figure that part out. This could be useful when you have to create a parameter switch like this one, but you have too many categories. It's always good to not color each of this bar, otherwise it will be too overwhelmed for users. But if you only have two colors, maybe sometimes multiple columns of categories may work well in your dashboard design. So with that, I would like to go back to my slides. Okay, we talked about all of this. Now let's talk about the learning resources. If you click the link for blocks in the chat, you will have access to the following. The demo dashboard that I had, the demo workbook that I have just provided. I like to re-emphasize that you can copy or download it, and there are a lot of hidden information in the workbook for you to dig deeper into what I have presented today. You also have access to the slide deck. And once the video is available on YouTube, I will put the link in my blog as well so that you may access it. And if you go to the blog, you will see way more information about how to use color in your data visualization practice. Earlier, you saw this color palette, right? Here, going back to my categorical color. For those who are familiar with, for those who notice that this color palette seems familiar, this is something that we call a multi-hue sequential color palette. It means that the color looks like it's in sequence, but also it ranges in multiple different colors. For example, here it ranges from purple, blue to green, and eventually kind of yellow. So it can be used to, kind of spice up your sequential color palette choosing in your dashboard design. If you go to the chat, you will have access to at least 10 kind of multi-hue sequential or diverging color palette that you may download and put it into your own dashboard design practice. So with that, I would like to conclude my presentation. Here are some takeaways. Semi-transparent bars with circles and text and some dashboard actions, you actually can create a lot of very powerful contextual legends with relevant metrics and with improved UX user experience. And while we know that default legends, we can encode colors or shape, can use it to highlight items or filter singular item, contextual legends actually are better in a way that the way they encode color or shapes, it's quite adaptively, like it's quite dynamic. And you can use it to filter several items or change the parameter setting with change the parameter setting of a dashboard, and with way less clicks. You don't have to click different parts of the dashboard. Everything happened within the color legend. And the legends that I introduced today, they have several obvious UX improvements. For example, they show you how big of a deal each category is. And if you pay attention to the tooltip earlier, in the tooltip, I also show what would happen if you click a certain circle, and it provides a sufficient clickable area in each category, regardless of how long the bar is. So with that, I encourage all of you to click around my workbook and try to find out what would happen. And maybe next time you can come back and share more of your applications of legends with the same audience. I'd like to specifically thank Oshit for inviting me to present in the Financial Service Talk. It's very nice seeing everybody here. I'd like to thank my folks at Discover, especially Discover Accredited BI team, for adopting a lot of the practices that I've introduced today. And I'd like to thank all of you to dedicate so much time for upskill and self-improving. It's always good to talk to all of you. So with that, I am open for questions, if anyone have any. You're welcome, Jane. Did I go over time?
Oh, no, you were perfectly fine. Thank you so much for your presentation. That was awesome.
I'm going to stop sharing.
Yes.
But yeah, if
Let's
anyone
wait
has
few
any questions,
more minutes
I am
for
happy
the
to
questions.
answer. Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin, well, thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. And I just searched your LinkedIn. I realized that your your degree actually is chemical, like learning the chemistry, right?
Yep,
How
yep.
did yeah how could you like let it now? Like I saw you use a lot of in depth like researching into Tableau. How did it happen?
How you mean? How did I switch from chemistry to my current job?
Yes, and
Or
also how did you use your anything you learned in your PhD program and applied it in Tableau related stuff?
I think a lot of what I've learned from my PhD journey is that a lot of time there are a lot of resources out there that you don't have to pay a cent to learn, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so attracted to the Tableau data fam community because after I gathered a lot of data for my research, I was on an intersection, right? I was deciding whether I should use Python, I should use rawgraph.com, I should use Data Wrapper, or different software or Excel to do my data visualization. But then eventually I landed with Tableau. It's just because there's so many free resources out there, and people here just seems really nice. I'm not gonna lie, and making it very encouraging for me to, start using the software and believe that I will be able to figure it out, even if I run into any problems. I think that is one of the biggest thing that I've learned in my PhD journey about Tableau. But to answer your question, I think a lot of the not just statistical analysis, a lot of the visual analytics practices, I already been doing them way before I learned Tableau, right? In chemistry, you go do a lot of experiment. You gather data from the machine. Usually, it's in a line chart. You read that and then try to adjust the parameter of an experiment. You repeat and then you read, you reevaluate. That cycle itself is visual analytics. I'm just not doing that with customer data. I'm just not doing that with credit card data. I'm doing that with the data about bacteria, the data about medicines. So different tools, but the same mindset. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that's really inspiring. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Anything else from anyone?
Oh, can I ask additional one? So I saw you kind of categorize three different kind of legends, and how did you figure it out? Like, it's because business had this kind of need, so you like develop it according to their need, or you like kind of is just playing around and trying to just create it by yourself. Is how it started? Like,
Yeah, each of them has a story behind it. Like a business partner reached out to me and said that I need, okay, for example, the line chart, right? They're like, okay, I want the line chart to break things down by month, but simultaneously, I want to see what's the year to date value, right? And you're like, okay, year to date, so I'm going to give you a bar, but I don't have place in my dashboard anymore, right? So what can I remove to put the bar chart next to it? And then I figure out, okay, why don't I put the dots next to it and then use the bar so that now the color legend becoming a year to date information, and then next to it is the line chart. So that was just one of the many use case. Or business partner told me that, oh, we always want to compare the latest month, last month, the same month last year, and then the last month last year. They always want to have that four lines, and I'm not gonna keep changing the color every month. Like I'm a very lazy person, so I created that color legend to solve that problem. I think a lot of them stem from business specific business requests paired with my laziness and creativity, and then that's how I come up with the solutions. Oh, and yeah, and actually, I'm gonna put one more example in the chat. I'm not gonna talk about it on the screen because I don't want the presentation to be too long. But if you go to this dashboard that I create, oh, so last year I created a dashboard talking about different data podcast channels. And if you look at the top right, click it and look at the top right, that is the parameter selection, a fancy versions of the parameter legend that I put on my personal project. So a lot of these legends, of course, they will be useful in terms of business application, but you can play with them in however way that you want. So put it out there.
Thank you again. Yeah, I can see your passion. It's why you're definitely a really good Tableau ambassador. Yeah, I certainly provide a lot of people like insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
If we don't have, yeah, go ahead, Jerry.
go ahead. Yeah.
No, so I was going to say, if we don't have any more questions, we can just move to the next round, next part. So we do have a small raffle draw for all the attendees today. And I am going to share my screen. We do have this two Tableau swags or accessories to give away. So what we'll do is we'll go to this wheel of names. So I've already put in all the names of the attendees that have attended the session today. Let me know if I'm missing out on anyone. But if not, I'm going to spin this twice, and then let's hope for the best. And we are going to reach out to the winners afterwards. So be on the lookout for an email from us. So Steve is the first winner, and we are definitely going to send you an email. And I'm just going to do it again. And Oleg as well. So please be on the lookout for an email from us. And thank you so much, everyone.
Actually, one more, because Steve said that he is Tableau employee.
So. Sorry. Sorry, I did not see that.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Okay, so Thomas is the final winner. So yes, that brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and thank you so much to Whitney and Kevin for your wonderful presentations.
You're welcome. Hope to come back soon.
Thanks, Charles. Appreciate
Definitely. It. And I hope you guys have fun at TC. I probably might not make it this year, but I hope to see you both soon, or like all of you soon.
Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, y'all.
Take care.
Thank you. See you later.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.